Hello, my name's Tosca, and I am in Professor Andrews' Sustainability 394 class, where we talk about complex systems and complex societies. And for my presentation, I chose to look at complex systems through the lens of the New York public transportation system, particularly the subway system. And I chose this because I'm from Baltimore and I grew up traveling to New York very often. I just traveled to New York in January, and when I first started taking this class, I immediately thought of how the New York public transportation system is in itself very complex because I had a lot of struggles with it when I was there, as I always do. And so I chose this because I thought it would be sort of a more simplistic approach to understanding complex systems, but still provides enough evidence and enough support to explain how it is a complex system. So first of all, what is a complex system? How we define it through the materials that we read in class. A complex system is made up of small components. So in a population, these can be individuals, it can in the species that are all coming together for a common goal with a common purpose within themselves. It can be any number of small components, but typically it's a large number of individuals in a population. The next component of a complex system is simple rules. So all these individuals are following simple rules, which allows them to achieve a common goal or a common occurrence. Um, these rules can vary in exactly how simple they are, but they are specific rules that each of these individuals are following. The third component is that there's no central leader. So as these individuals are following these rules, there's no one person or entity or individual that's directing them. They're doing it on their own. They're all coming together for a common goal. The fourth component is that there is a complex entity. So all of these individuals together are achieving something bigger than themselves, more complex than each of their own as individuals. And then the fifth rule is that it causes emergent behavior. So this common goal is causing them to sort of a ripple effect to affect a larger society, a larger population, a larger pattern, whatever it may be as it pertains to the specific system, but it's causing something else to occur. So for the New York Public Transportation System, this is a map of the subway system in New York. If you're just looking at it, it in itself looks very complex, and it is. It stretches over a very large area of land. There's various different trains. Each of the colors on the map represents a different train, a different route. There's about a bajillion different stops that you can take. They're all underground, and it can be very, very intricate and difficult to maneuver if you are not familiar with it. And I know that many New Yorkers who've lived there for many years still have not memorized the route. Many people just memorize the route that they take to and from work, to and from school. But it is a very complex system, even not even considering the components of a complex system as we learned about it in class. It just in itself is very complex and intricate. Um, so the first rule that the subway system follows as it pertains to complex systems is that it is made up of small components. So the small components are on sort of two different scales. The first is that the subway system is made up of a bunch of different subway cars themselves, which are transporting people to and from their destination. And then the second scale of small components is the individual people who are riding the subway. They are all sort of the smaller components within the small component that also have an effect on the efficiency and the overall goal of the subway system. The simple rules that the subway system follows are set schedule, specific routes, specific methods for use, and overall operation. So each subway car, although they're not always the most timely and the most punctual, each subway car has a specific schedule that they're following. There's specific hours of operation that each subway car runs. There are also specific routes that each subway car takes. So the A train will get you up and down Manhattan, the F train will get you to the Bronx, and so on and so forth. The A train is not going to get you to the Bronx. The F train is not going to get you from uptown to midtown. There's specific routes that each subway car follows, and they do not vary off of those routes. It's a rule that the routes are what they are. And then there's also specific methods for use. So Each individual that rides the subway is going to be riding it for a specific reason, and that is to get transported from one place to another. They're not riding the subway to, have lunch. They're not riding the subway to plant anything. They're doing it to be transported from one destination to another. And then the fourth is their operation. So each subway car does have a operator, a driver who oversees sort of the tracks, makes sure that everything's going smoothly. Um, and then how you get onto and off the subway is also a rule. So although not everyone follows it, people are supposed to pay to get onto the subway. They sort of file through a line, a system where it's sort of a turntable style. They swipe their card and they get onto the subway, they get off, so on and so forth. No one specifically runs the subway system. There's no sort of leader of the subway that oversees every single subway stop, every single car that sort of micromanages it. Yes, it is sort of run by the New York City government and New York City transportation, but there is no one specific leader that sort of is micromanaging how each subway car runs and is not policing every individual that gets on and off the subway. It's sort of its own entity within itself because it runs on a very specific system, specific times, specific destinations, specific routes, and no one person can change that just on a daily basis. How is the subway system a complex entity? So all the systems come together for a common goal. The subway is there to transport people around the city. That is its goal. That is what it's there. That's what it's there to do. It's not going to change. It's not going to alter that. There is no private subway system for the rich and wealthy. It is there for the public. The individual actions and decisions can affect this goal, however. This is an important part of complex systems. The individual components that make up the system can affect the efficiency of the system itself. So if for some reason everybody who rides the subway one day decides to not take the subway, that is going to greatly alter how the subway is run. It's not going to be efficient. It's not going to do its goal of transporting people. And most likely the city would have to shut down the subway if people just decide to boycott it for whatever reason, or if people aren't satisfied with um, with its with how it's being run. The subway system does rely on the small components that are using it. And then it also has to function effectively on a very large scale. So the subway, as I showed in the map in the first slide, it has to take people to and from those destinations. It can't one day decide to not take people to the Bronx or not take people to from upper to lower Manhattan. It has to be able to do that in order for it to be effective and for it to carry out its goal. And then the fifth law that the subway system follows is emergent behaviors. So every individual who uses the subway is part of a larger system, which is the New York population. So the New York population and the New York City and New York City in itself is a complex system in that it is made up of many, many living parts, a very large population. Um, and in many ways, the subway is what allows New York City to run efficiently because people come to New York to travel around the city. They can't do that, especially not on a very economically nice level. If they have to take taxis everywhere, if they have to rely on the bus, which is a much less reliable system, the subway is really what allows millions of people to be able to effectively live their lives and do what they came to do in New York. And then also each individual is going to their specific destination. And as people ride the subway, this allows them to go to work, to go to school, to do whatever they plan on doing for the day. And the subway is what allows those emergent behaviors to occur. People get on the subway to go somewhere, and they get off the subway to do that whatever they plan on doing. And the subway allows them to do that. So thank you. This was a really interesting class. I really enjoyed all the material that we covered, although at times it was challenging. I really wanted for this presentation to sort of make complex systems and the science behind it a little bit easier to understand and to be more applicable, especially to something that I have used and that I recognize in my everyday life. Not everyday life, but that I have recognized at points in my life. I love New York, and as much as I hate to love the subway, I do thoroughly enjoy writing it. And I thought it would be a good example to use to sort of explain complex science on a more practical scale that I think more people can relate to. So thank you.